There's a lot of political maneuvering going on in the state of North Carolina regarding college athletics. A lot of politicians trying to get involved. Are they trying to prevent North Carolina from leaving the ACC and stay in the ACC with North Carolina State? Are they trying to make sure NC State is a hanger-on of North Carolina if North Carolina does leave? Or are they simply compromising and setting the table for the North Carolina Tar Heels to get out of the conference? That's what we're talking about in today's show, and we're going to do that right after this word from our sponsor. Ladies and gentlemen, this episode is brought to you by Dutch Miller Automotive, where friends and family pricing means you get the best deal right up front on any new or pre-loved vehicle in stock every time. With brands like Chevrolet, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Kia, Hyundai, Ford, GMC, Buick, and Subaru, the Dutch Miller Automotive family is always growing and ready to put you in the car or truck you've been searching for. Check out our inventory across West Virginia at DutchMillerAuto.com or come in today to the home of friends and family pricing, only at a Dutch Miller Automotive store near you. What is up? Welcome in. Come in. Make yourself comfortable. Belly yourself up to the bar and let me pour you out this shot of top shelf college football content. My name is Couz, and here today on Couz's Corner, we're talking about conference realignment again, this time and again surrounding the ACC. Some very interesting news coming out today, or actually the last couple of days. But I just found some of it today, and it's being, even though this article was written, the one I'm going to share with you here in a minute, even though it was written a few weeks ago, it's now making the rounds on Twitter and being tweeted out by national media people. But first, let's look at the background. Most of you probably have heard the rumblings about how the North Carolina Board of Trustees that oversees, UNC Chapel Hill, they have basically had a lot of their power stripped away because the University of North Carolina System Board of Governors has basically created a new rule that says, hey, no team can leave their conference unless the Board of Governors approves it and approves the financial plan surrounding it, right? So the Board of Trustees at UNC no longer has the power to just take UNC out of the ACC and go somewhere else. This Board of Governors oversees not only North Carolina Chapel Hill, but they oversee NC State, they oversee East Carolina, Charlotte, Appalachian State, and other schools within the state of North Carolina. And they have to look out for the health of all of them. These Board of Governors are appointed by politicians in the state of North Carolina who, oh, by the way, there are a lot of politicians in North Carolina who are NC State grads. They don't want to see NC State left behind in conference realignment. There are also a lot of people on this Board of Trustees who were appointed who are alums or are fans of the smaller North Carolina schools. They want to make sure their schools are protected. So there's a lot of political games going on here that could impact the future of the North Carolina Tar Heels and whether or not they can get out of the ACC, assuming they want to, which we all kind of assume they do. Now, there's a lot of talk, a lot of reports out there. I don't even call it talk, reports by legit national journalists like Brett McMurphy, for example, who say UNC is highly sought after by both the Big Ten and the SEC. Many have even said they're at the top of the list for both leagues. So if UNC can get out of the ACC, they will more than likely have a home. But will these political games and all the political maneuvering keep them in it? Well, let's first of all look at this bill that is now circulating through the state of North Carolina. And I'm going to pull up a post that was put out by a college football speaker on the corner with Greg Flugar on his X account at Flug Empire. And here's what it says. It's called the UNC Intrastate Athletic Competition Bill. And it passed committee today. This is 3 hours ago he put this out. It passed committee today without discussion per report by Brian Murphy. Now, this bill, well, basically, I was going to try to explain it, but let's just do this. I will just share an article with you that Mr. Murphy wrote that explains this bill, and then I'll give you my thoughts on what it can mean for UNC and their chances of getting out of the ACC. All right, so here is the article. North Carolina lawmakers seek to force UNC, NC State to play football, basketball versus in-state schools. A new bill brought by several prominent Republican lawmakers would require North Carolina and NC State to play games against East Carolina, Appalachian State, and Charlotte, by Brian Murphy. Carolina lawmakers want to require the state's two biggest and richest athletic programs, UNC Chapel Hill and NC State, to regularly play football and basketball games against other in-state public schools. Under a bill filed by prominent Republican House members, UNC and NC State would be required to play at least one of East Carolina, Appalachian State, and Charlotte every year, and would have to play each school home and away every 6 years. UNC and NC State would also be required to play each other home or away every year, a nod to looming realignment that could move the longtime rivals into separate conferences. So they're wanting to make sure, even though right now UNC and NC State are playing each other every year because they're both in the ACC, they want to make sure that they play each other every year, even if they're not both in the ACC. I think that could be the key piece of this article. Let's keep going. Sports tourism is vital to the economy of North Carolina, and intrastate collegiate athletics generates millions of dollars in economic impact to the state, the bill states. It is the priority of the General Assembly to encourage intrastate collegiate athletic rivalries in order to promote economic development. House Bill 965, titled UNC Intrastate Athletic Competition, is sponsored by Reps Jason Sain, Jake Johnson, Ray Pickett, and David Willis. Sain, a Republican from Lincoln County, is a Charlotte supporter and senior chairman of the Appropriations Committee. So he is a supporter of the University of Charlotte, one of the group of 5 schools located in the state of North Carolina, a school who could be drastically impacted by North Carolina leaving the ACC. Let's keep going. We're just making sure we get those games, Sain said. They can't not play. There's enough wiggle room in there as far as space and calendaring that we'll get the maximum benefit without real injury to them. It's what fans want to see, and it's a good way to do it, end quote. The bill identifies high enrollment institutions as those with more than 30,000 undergraduate and graduate students. UNC, NC State, and Charlotte are the only in-state schools that meet that threshold, according to UNC Board of Governors data for the fall of 23. Now, I'm taking an L here because I was under the assumption that East Carolina University had the largest enrollment in the state. Now, maybe East Carolina's enrollment has dropped, or maybe I just received false information, or inaccurate information, I should say. So I took the L here. Apparently, Charlotte has a larger enrollment than East Carolina. Maybe that's changed over the years. Anyway, let's keep going. But Sain said the bill is not meant to include Charlotte among those. It defines other eligible constituent institutions as those that play at the highest level of college football, which means Appalachian State, East Carolina, and Charlotte. It says that every year UNC and NC State, identified in the bill as high enrollment institutions, must play at least one home or away football and men's and women's basketball game against each other and East Carolina and Appalachian State. Further, it says that every 6 years, UNC and NC State must play at least one home and away game against each of the other 3 schools. And it would require those games to be alternated between home and away, meaning UNC and NC State would have to play on the road. It's more messaging, Sain said, when asked about its chances of passage. The chance of passage may be based on the reactions from the schools. If they kind of overreact, it may force the issue. As much as anything, it's to kind of put a marker out there that fans want to see this. We hear it a lot. So it's a political maneuvering. Basically, Sain's admitting here, this may not even pass, but we need to put this out there to show our constituents, the people who voted for us, that we're doing what they want. Are they really? Who knows? We'll see. The bill sets aside $1 billion to the Board of Governors to inform eligible constituent institutions and members of the public about the intrastate athletic competition required by the Act. It would become effective on July 1 if passed. In football, the teams do play. UNC, which just completed a home-and-home series with Appalachian State over the last 2 years, hosts Charlotte in 24 and visits Charlotte in 25. NC State has home-and-home series scheduled with all 3 in-state FBS programs between 2025 and 2031. So this is very, very interesting stuff here. These politicians in North Carolina are trying to force UNC and NC State not only to play each other every year, but also to continue to play the smaller universities inside the state, the public universities inside the state, because they see the economic benefit to that happening. And I've talked about in previous videos. There are a lot, and I'll link to this video in particular at the end here. but there are a lot of economic benefits to the state of North Carolina, the ACC, and the ACC for these games to take place. As a matter of fact, the state of North Carolina has put billions of dollars into the ACC holding athletic events inside the state. So, yes, part of this could be to protect the ACC. But I also think there's a contingent of the UNC supporters, not only maybe in Congress, but also on the Board of Governors that oversees the system. There could be a contingent of UNC supporters who are saying, okay, we want to leave the ACC. We want to follow Florida State and Clemson out the door. We have a home in either the Big Ten or the SEC. If we do, we're being held back by the political stuff, the political games, the political maneuvering, whatever, or you could say the economics of the ACC staying together and or NC State being with us in the same league. Maybe this bill is a compromise for those people. This is like saying, okay, if this bill passes, you can leave the ACC, North Carolina, Chapel Hill. You can leave the ACC Tar Heels. But if you do, you still have to play these games inside the state of North Carolina every year against either Appalachian State, Charlotte, East Carolina, or NC State every year. As a matter of fact, you're probably going to play at least one. You're going to play at least one game inside the state, and you're going to play NC State every year if you do leave. I think this could potentially be that. Now, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it strictly is just, hey, we're protecting the economic benefit of having these games in state. Maybe that's what it is. But I think the UNC folks could be maneuvering here. Maybe this is a bill that's a compromise. Hey, let us leave the conference. We can still play these schools, but you need to put it in a bill so that these schools schedule us if we leave. Maybe that's it. Maybe it's a compromise where they get out, everybody's happy. They get out of the ACC, they make more money in another conference, neither the Big Ten or the SEC, but yet these schools still get to play North Carolina, and the state still gets the economic benefit of having those games in the league. Now, not sure what would happen, and maybe even with that, if NC State stays in the ACC, they still get to hold the events in North Carolina, and they can still have their offices in North Carolina. They can still have all these league championships, and who knows? Maybe they backfill with another North Carolina school. Maybe that's part of this too. It could all just be one big negotiation, one big compromise here to help UNC get out of the league without causing too much damage to the other in-state schools. What do you think? Do you think that's what this is, or it's just, hey, it's just simple economics, trying to protect the state and the schools, public schools? Want to give a shout out right now to my VIP channel members of this episode. These are people who have been supporting the show for a very long time. Mr. Luke Bart, Big Dan T, Brad Cheney, and Cody Cutright. All four have been longtime paid VIP channel members here. If you want to become part of that club, hit the join button below. If you don't have a join button on your device, go to my channel homepage. Look right beside my profile photo. You will see a join button. Click that. Shows you the perks. You can join either level, the $2.99 level or the $4.99 level. You can also check out more work and support more of my work over at Couz'sCorner.com. There are a lot of written articles over there about West Virginia Mountaineer sports. Go check that out. I have some other writers over there as well. Right now, the West Virginia baseball team is in the Super Regionals. That's being covered by Shanna Rose, a very, very good writer who has a lot of experience over there, and I have the other writers on board too. So go check out Couz'sCorner.com. Also check out my merch store. You can get my channel logo. You can get a lot of other designs. There are a lot of other ways you can support me in the description box. Check those out. Here's the video I mentioned that talks about the economic benefits of the ACC staying together, the economic benefits for the state of North Carolina. Check it out if you can, please. I thank you for tuning into this one. Have a top shelf day and Q Country Roads.